seated. Now, if you want to be on the floor, you can do that. And you could also do this part of the class standing. So what we're going to do is start with a little bit of a wake up. This is called the 4-quadrant wake up. So we're going to wake the whole body up here. And it starts with just a little light pressure. So I'm going to start by picking a leg. I'm going to pick my left leg, and I'm just going to take my hands and lightly tap on the leg. Now, if you were doing this on the floor, you could have your 2 legs in front of you. If you're doing this standing, it might look like this. If you can reach the back of your leg, you can tap the back of your leg, and I'm just alternating hands and starting to go down the leg just as far as I can comfortably reach. As you're doing this, the pressure can be whatever you like. It could be really light, and you could just do your fingers kind of tapping. Or if it feels good to use a little more pressure, you can make your wrists kind of floppy and do a little light percussive slapping. We'll go up and down the leg a few times. You can do the outer hip here. If you're standing, or if you want to stand up for a minute, you can do the back of the hip. And we'll do one more time, up and down. Good. And then we'll pause for a moment. And if you want to close your eyes, you can do that. And just see if you can notice a difference between the leg that you just woke up and your other leg. See if it feels any different. Good. And then we'll go to the other leg when you feel ready. So just a light tapping up and down. You could use the back of the hand if that feels better. If you have any issues with arthritis, I know I have some arthritis in my wrists and my thumbs, so sometimes I need to be mindful of that. You can use fists if that feels better, or you can just do light finger taps. The goal here, I'm just letting somebody into the class. The goal here is just to wake up the body a little bit. So you can't do it wrong. We're just tapping up and down the leg. Again, if you want to stand, or if you are standing, you could do the back of the hip. And we'll do one more time, just lightly tapping. If you're just coming into class, welcome. We're just doing a little wake up for the legs. And then we'll pause for a moment when you feel ready and just see if you can notice if that leg feels a little more awake. Sometimes people might feel like the leg feels a little bigger now. We have more awareness of it. There's no right or wrong way to feel, we're just noticing. And now we're going to pick an arm and start to tap that arm with the other hand. As you do this, you're just going up and down. You can tap lightly on the wrist, on the fingers, on the palm. You can go all the way up into the underarm here. You can do the back of the shoulder if you're able to reach it. If it feels better to use the back of your hand or to do just light little pinpricks with the other fingers, you can do that too. Remember that all we're doing is waking up the body, so we don't need to be we don't need to use a lot of pressure unless you want to. Let's do one more time, up and down. And then again, I'm just going to ask you to pause and see if you can notice if the 2 arms feel different from one another. Good, and then we'll go to the other arm. And as you're moving to the other arm, remember that you could do this seated or standing. So it's up to you. You could be seated or standing for this part. And you're welcome to turn the arm over. If it feels good to use a little more pressure, you get a little slap, a little stinging light sensation, like you just came out of a cold shower, or you just came in from a cold New Jersey morning, or a cold Stuart, Florida morning. It was chilly here for us at 50-something degrees, or 48 when I woke up. And then we'll pause when you're finished with that arm and just notice. Now we've woken up these 4 parts of the body, these 4 quadrants. And now I'm going to invite you to see if you want to wake up anything else in the body. You might start by tapping the fingers across the chest a little bit. So just light finger tapping here. Some people might like to do the stomach. Other people will feel like, I don't want to touch my stomach. That's fine. You don't need to. If you want to do the lower back, you might do it like this. I take the backs of my hands and lightly thump in with my thumb side. up and down. And you could tap again on the legs if that felt good. Or you could tap around the eyes and forehead a little bit if that feels good, if it feels okay to touch your face. If not, then you don't do it. And then the last thing that we'll do together here, if you want to play along, is just to take your fingers, and now I'm tapping the back of my head. Little thumps, light finger touches, waking up maybe the back of the neck if you're able to reach it. And then maybe once more around the face or the neck. And then we'll just let the hands rest for a moment. And now I'm going to invite you just to pause and feel and breathe. If you want to close your eyes, you can do that and sort of go inside and see. See if you can notice how it feels to have woken up the body a little bit more. Maybe you feel a little more alert or awake. Maybe you feel like that was strange and I didn't like it. That's okay. I'm offering you lots of different things so that you can take away what works for you. So let's just take another breath or two here to notice and feel. As we go through the class today, we're going to do it really mindfully, really slowly, just so that you have lots of opportunity to feel your experience. And now we're going to start to do a little more targeted movement. We're going to work with the feet first. If you're seated on the floor, you're going to point and flex your feet like this. So my feet point and my feet flex. If you're seated in a chair, you can lift up onto the tiptoes and lower the heels back down. So just pointing the feet and flexing the feet. Of course, if you're seated in a chair, you could also straighten the legs in front of you and do that too. That takes a lot more energy. I like this with the heels on the floor. It's like I'm lifting up onto my high-heeled shoes, and then I come down into my flip-flops. We'll do a few of those, up and down. Good. Now, as you're doing that, just a point and a flex of the foot. Now we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to start to alternate. So I point one foot and flex the other. It's a little bit like you're pedaling out the legs here. We'll just do one or two more of these. And then we'll let that go and move on to some ankle circles. Now to circle the ankle, we'll do one at a time. If you're in a chair, you're just going to point the leg in front of you. If you're seated on the floor, you can do the same thing. Just begin to circle your ankle and see if you can go a little bit slowly, maybe more slowly than you would normally do. And we'll go the other way. We don't think about the feet as much sometimes in our yoga practice, but they're really important. We'll go one more time around with this first foot, and then you can switch legs. Extend your other leg in front of you as best you're able, and circle around. As you're circling, see if you can notice how it feels, and remember that if anything's painful, we're not moving into any kind of pain. So you would just make the movement a little smaller if some part of it didn't feel good to you. Circling around, make sure you go both ways. So we'll just change here and go the other way. And then set that foot back down. I'm going to move a little closer so I'm more visible with my upper body now. We're going to move into the shoulders. So if you'd like to move forward a little bit on your chair, you can do that. If you're seated on the floor, see if you can sit up just a little bit tall. And now we're going to lift the shoulders to the ears, squeeze your shoulder blades together and pull them down the back. Shoulder blades apart, up, together, and down. As you're going around now for these next two circles, see if you can start to just smooth it out. Make it like you're taking a smooth ride around on your back with your shoulder blades. Good. And the next time that your shoulder blades come down, we're going to pause and go the other direction. So sometimes this can feel a little confusing. I'm going to turn around and show you my back and see if that's helpful at all. If not, you can look at my back for a minute. We're pulling the shoulder blades together, up, apart, and down. Together, up, apart, and down. Keep that going for another few cycles. Together, up, apart, and down and together, up, apart, and down. And then pause for a moment. And again, if you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to keep them open, that's fine. What I'm wanting you to do is just check in for a moment and see if you can check how your body's feeling right now in this moment. We've done a little movement. We've worked into some areas where sometimes we have some stress. See how the body's feeling right now. We'll move on to the wrists from here. We're going to take our two hands in front of us. I'm making a very light fist, so I'm not squeezing hard. It's just a light fist. And now I'm going to start to circle my wrists. Don't worry about how big the circle is. Think about moving that wrist as best you can. And then we'll circle in the other direction. These look good. Everybody that I can see, you're doing it just right. Almost everything that we do today, there's no wrong way to do it. We're all going to look different because we have different bodies. Let's circle around one more time. And then we're loosening the hands. I'm going to bring my fingers together in a little point, and then I'm going to open them like I'm flicking water off of my fingers. So let's do a few of those together. Fingers together, and then flick, 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 flick. If you want to make it a little bigger, you can let the wrists move a little more, maybe even the elbows, maybe even the shoulders. Just imagine that you're flicking water off of you, or maybe it's, I cooked a purple cabbage the other day and my hands were blue. So I'm imagining that I'm flicking blue water off of my hands. Let's do 2 or 3 more of these. Good, and then let the hands rest. We'll take one breath in and out here together. Breathing in and breathing out. Really good. All right, now we're working with the neck. If you have any pain with the neck, remember we're only going as far as we can without pain today. So keep the movement small if you need to. We're going to start by tucking the chin in a little bit, like as though you were trying to make a double chin, and then look down toward your shirt, and then up as far as you comfortably can toward the ceiling. Do that 2 more times, looking down toward your shirt and up toward the ceiling. Let's have one more time like that. Down and up. And then we'll come back to our neutral gaze. Neutral just means we're looking forward. And we'll take a little turn over to the side. You're just looking over one shoulder and then over the other shoulder. Over that first shoulder again. And over the second shoulder. Now these are smaller movements, right? They might feel like they're so small, not much is happening. But what we're trying to do is get our body to move in as many ways as it can in a comfortable way. Let's come back to center. And now lightly drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. Back to center. Left ear to left shoulder. We're asking our body to move in as many comfortable ways as it can, especially ways that it might not normally move. So some of the things that we're doing today might not be things that you would normally do, and that's on purpose, because it's so important to get our body moving in as many planes of motion and ranges of motion as it can. Let's do one more time over to the left, and then back to center. Now, this last thing that we're going to do with the neck might not be for everybody. So if it feels like it's not quite right for you, then you're just going to skip this part. But let's give it a try. Take your hands to the back of your head. It's okay if your elbows come forward. We don't need to take the elbows wide. And pause for a moment there and make sure that that feels comfortable. Now, with light pressure, we're pressing the hands lightly into the back of the head. And then with light pressure, we're pressing back with the back of the head. So we're just pressing our head lightly back into the hands. And when I say lightly, I mean really lightly. So there's not a lot of strain here. Lightly pressing the head back into the hands and the hands pressed forward. And what we're doing is strengthening the stabilizer muscles for the neck. This is so important if you've been spending a lot of time sort of looking down, reading, or looking at your phone or an iPad. Let's take one more breath here. And then we'll let that go. The arms can rest for a moment. And if it feels good to move the neck or the head or the shoulders around here, you can shake it out a little bit if that feels good. I'm just checking on the time to see where we are. Okay. So now we're going to move a little bit bigger. If you're on the floor, you can take your legs wide. If you're seated in a chair like I am, you're going to take your legs wide if they're able to. So I just stepped one foot off to one side and the other foot off to the other. And I'm moving forward now to the edge of my chair, as long as your chair feels stable. So make sure it doesn't feel like you're going to tip off the edge. Now we're going to do a little cat and cow movement here. As you inhale, let your belly come forward. The chest moves forward. You might even look a little bit toward the ceiling. And as you exhale, we're rounding the spine, dropping the chin toward the chest, and the back moves toward the chair. So just letting the spine move now, belly forward, chest forward, and spine rounds. Good, everybody. So I'm going to show this from the side just to make sure it makes sense. As I inhale, I come forward and you can see I'm arching my spine just comfortably. And then I round as I come back. If it feels good to hold one of these positions for a few breaths, you can do that. Maybe if it feels good to stretch back like this for a couple of breaths, you could hold there. Or you can continue to move with me. We're just going to do a few more of these. So when we round forward here, we're arching the spine like a Halloween cat. And when we move forward, we're lifting the chest. The next time that you curl your spine backward will be the last one. We're going to come back to neutral, back to our starting position, and we'll turn this into a circle. So we'll start by leaning forward a little bit here, lean over to one side, roll toward the back and over to the other side. So you're just making a big circle. Now, if you're on the floor, you can have your legs in any position at all. They could be crossed or the legs could still be wide. And circling around. It's okay if your body makes some noise. That's pretty normal, as long as it doesn't hurt. And then we'll go the other direction. These are one of my favorites. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it, but for me, sometimes I find a spot that feels really good and then I stay there for a few breaths. Let's take one more circle around. And then we'll come back to center. You can step the feet in a little bit if you like. And now we're going to do a little bit of some twisting. We'll begin by reaching the arms up overhead, just as far as you comfortably can. They don't need to be high, they could be out to the side. Then turn yourself to your right and let your hands fall to where they feel comfortable. I've taken my back hand to the back of the chair. My other hand goes to whichever leg feels good. Now, as we stay here for a few breaths, you can use the chair as a little bit of leverage, right? So you can feel that holding on to the chair might help you to feel like, okay, I can lift my spine and twist a little bit more. Just be sure that whatever you do is feeling really comfortable and doable for you. As you stay here for another breath or two, sometimes in twists, it feels good to move the head around a little bit. Could look over the opposite shoulder. And then we'll come all the way back through to center. Before we go to the second side, take a moment and see if you can feel that the two sides of your body might feel different from one another, like one side did something that the other hasn't done yet. When you feel ready for the second side, if you like, you could try reaching the arms up first again, and then twisting to the other side. Whichever side you do first, it really doesn't matter. For what we're doing today, you could do left and then right, or right and then left. I know that everybody's different when it comes to watching somebody on the screen. If I show you my right, it might look like my left. So I'm just gonna say go whichever way feels right for you first today. And then just like we did on the first side, as you come in, you can play a little bit with the angle. You can use your hand to maneuver you more comfortably into a good twist for you. And then you can play a little bit with the angle of your head or shrugging the shoulders. And one thing we haven't done yet today is checked in with our jaw. So while we're here for another breath or two, it might feel good to soften your jaw like you're opening your mouth, and maybe even move your jaw side to side a time or two. If any of you in the room today are jaw clenchers or teeth grinders at night, if you wake up with a sore jaw, then it might feel good to move the jaw around a little bit here. Let's come back through the center. And then pause again and breathe. If you want to move around a little, I'm just going to shimmy my shoulders a little because that feels good to me after that twist. And we're going to do some half salutations. These could be done seated or standing. I'm going to show you seated and verbalize the standing part for you. I think you'll be okay. Here's how we start. The arms reach up overhead. So if you're standing, you will now reach the arms overhead too. And then we bow forward. So we're folding forward over the legs. Again, if you were standing, it would be the same thing. It would just look like this. Now here in the chair, you've just gone as far forward as you can. Now, lift your fingertips up to your knees and bring your chest forward like it's doing a little bit of a back bend here. And then we'll fold forward again. Let the spine round down. That's perfect, everybody. Good. Then from either your standing or your seated position, you're standing up and reaching the arms overhead. And then the hands come back through the heart. Good. I know there was a lot of talking from me with that one. Let's try another one and see how it goes. Arms come up. Good. I see some standing, some seated. That's perfect. Now we're going to bow forward, going over the legs. It's okay if the fingers don't go to the floor. They don't need to. See how it would feel to let your head be heavy here. You might take a breath or two and shake it yes or no. Then we'll bring the fingers to the shins and lift the chest. So there's a little bit of an elongation or a lengthening. And then we fold forward again and round down. Let's come all the way up to stand. Float the arms overhead. You might make a big circle with the arms. That's great, everybody. And hands through the heart. Let's try that one more time together. Arms lift up. And bow forward. Again, seated or standing, same exact thing. Fingers to the shins. This is a half sun salutation that we're doing. And fold forward. So traditionally, sun salutations are to greet the sun and to warm up the body. Now we'll stand back up, coming back to our seated or standing position. The arms reach overhead and the hands come back through the space of the heart. Really good work, everybody. Take a moment here and check in again with yourself like we've been doing. How does it feel to have moved, to have gotten some more blood flow through the body? Let's take a breath or two here. Good. I'm just going to check in with the chat, see if I missed anything. Nope, we're okay. Next, we're moving to either a standing position, or you can do this work in a chair. So I'm going to show you both ways. This is Warrior Two. I'm sorry, when I look over to my right, I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. So for Warrior Two, I'm going to show you standing first. We start with the legs wide, turn one set of toes toward the front of the mat, and then bend the knees. So I'll make sure you can see my feet here. It's just like this. And then the arms might come out to the side. Now, if we're in a chair, we're going to do the same thing. We walk one foot over to the side and bend the other knee. You could also just have both legs bent. Right? Is that good enough to move forward? Enough information for today? Now in our Warrior Two, I'm going to lift the screen a little bit. Let's take a moment and see if we can feel that we have 2 feet on the floor. Feel the strength in the legs. Even if we're in a chair, access the strength in the legs, feel that. And then we'll start to move a little with the arms. If it feels okay, let's reach the arms overhead And float the arms down by the sides. Nice. This is flying warrior. Arms come overhead. And arms by the sides. I actually really love to do these poses in a chair like this. It gives a very different feeling. A different sense of being present, being able to feel the body in a different way. We'll move the arms 2 more times. If your arms get tired, just take a break. Good. And remember that if it hurts the arms to reach them overhead, you only reach them as far as they can without pain. Good, everybody. The next time as the arms come down, we'll pause. And then let yourself come back to a neutral position. So if you're standing, you're coming to wide legs. If you're seated, you're bringing both legs in again. In a moment, we're doing the second side. So we'll walk the other leg over to the side. It won't work for everybody, but if it's possible for you, you've got one leg straight and the other leg bent. It's also okay to have both legs bent if you're in a chair. Sometimes chairs have arms that make it awkward, so do whatever feels right for you. Then we'll play with the arms out to the sides again. And we'll do that same thing. Arms lift up and arms come down. Now, because you're very familiar with the movement now, the arms can kind of go on their own. So the challenge is not to let it become really automatic, but to see if we can stay centered and grounded in our movement. And what I mean by that is, can you really feel that you have breath moving through your body? Feel your feet on the floor if you can. Notice that you have 2 legs working for you in this position. Even if you're in a chair, feel the legs. We'll do one more breath, lifting up and coming down. And then let the hands rest again. Let's walk the legs back to our neutral position. And if you're standing, you might do a little shake like this. If you're in a chair, you might jiggle the legs a little in and out or shake the upper body. See what feels good to you. These little shakes help us to discharge some of the stress energy that we carry around in our bodies. Just like if you've ever seen a dog or a cat shake it off after a stressful event, we can do that for ourselves too. Now we'll move on to a little warrior 1. I'm going to show you the standing version first. Many of you may know it very well, but I'm just going to show you just in case. From a standing position, we'll step 1 foot forward, and then we bend the front knee. So that's really the pose. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And then the arms come overhead for warrior 1. So that's the standing version. Show you from a different angle. It looks like this. It's like I'm facing forward with my hips and my chest, and my arms are overhead. If you're in a chair, it's very similar. We're thinking now about having the hips facing in the same direction a little bit more. So I know my black pants on my black chair are hard to see, but I've got one leg facing off to the side, and I'm letting the other leg drop in a little bit. So instead of being back here like it was for warrior 2, it's a little more facing the same way. Now we'll bring the arms into a cactus shape. If your arms are tired already, you need a little break, just skip this part. We're going to do a little movement here, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then bringing the elbows and the hands in front of you. Opening wide, squeezing, and arms come together. Nice, everyone. Let's do just 3 more of these. See if you can really focus on that squeeze as the shoulder blades come together. That's the part of the body that tends to be a little less strong. And it can be really helpful to put some more strength in that part of the body between the shoulder blades to help to alleviate upper back pain and shoulder pain. We'll do just 1 more here. Good. And then turn yourself back to center. If you're in the standing position, just come back to stand for a moment. And we'll go the other way. So I turn my other toes, and then I let my other hip turn too. So I'm lucky that I have this folding chair because it doesn't have sides and it lets me kind of do that. But really, if your legs don't work with the chair, just do whatever you need to do with this lower half and we'll focus on the upper half. Now, Warrior One traditionally has the arms overhead, and we're just playing with that a little bit today by taking the elbows to the side. And now I'm going to show you something a little different. For this round, we're going to slide the hands behind the head lightly. If they don't go comfortably behind the head, you bring them by the ears. Then we bring the elbows back to the side and see if you can slide the backs of the hands behind the back. Doesn't matter how far it goes. Come back through your cactus shape and slide the hands behind the head. Be mindful as you go here that there's no strain in the neck. And if it feels like you can't comfortably get your hands behind your back, that's okay. You're just going to bring your hands right here to your waist instead. Let's do a few more rounds here. I'm going to show you from the front just in case that was unclear or hard to see. We're moving our arms through as much of their range of motion as we can today. Cracks and crinkles in the shoulders are totally normal. Let's do one more behind the back with the hands. And then let the hands rest, bring your legs back to neutral. Pause for a moment, breathe and feel. See how your body's feeling now after all this work that we've done. We're going to move into a little bit of a hip stretch. I'm going to show you 3 ways to do this. The first way is seated in a chair. If this is available to you, this is a very big stretch for some of us. It may not be accessible for everybody in the room today. If it's available to you, we're crossing one leg over the other in this figure 4 shape. Then as you start to lean forward, you'll get more stretch. You may already have plenty of stretch. If this hurts your knee, then rather than crossing the leg like this, you're going to either cross the knee on the knee or hook the heel behind the ankle and lean forward. If you'd like to do this on your yoga mat instead, that looks like this. You lie down on your back and cross one leg over the other like this. And you can also do this using your chair or a couch. So this is to stretch the back of the hip. Many folks that I know who have sciatic pain find some alleviation with this when we stretch into the back of the hip. So if you know that occasionally you have some sciatic pain or sciatica, this may be something that you already know about. So we'll come into the stretch. You may already be there. If you've been there so long, you're bored and tired already, just come out. I know it's a lot of talking, but I want to make sure I'm giving you as many options as I can. So I appreciate your patience when I talk about things that aren't necessarily relevant for your body. Hopefully they are for some bodies. Good. Then we'll change to the other leg. Now again, if it doesn't work to cross the leg, I know that's going to be the case for some of us. Then you're hooking the heel behind the ankle and letting that hip drop to the side. So we're getting a stretch into the inner thigh. Even if it doesn't feel like a big stretch, it's still good. Or we're crossing the leg over the other, which stretches into the outer hip. Or we've got the ankle right there on top of the knee. For more sensation, we lean further forward. If you're on your back, you're crossing the other leg on top. I understand sometimes it feels awkward to ask questions in a group like this, and it's too much of a pain to like type into the chat. But I'll make sure that you have my email address, and I'll get a video of this to send out to, for the library to send out to you so you can practice along afterward. And if you have any questions, I really welcome those. You're welcome to call me or text me or email me any of your questions. All right, let's come back to our neutral position here. Before we come into our rest, before we come to our conscious relaxation pose, we're going to do one last little pose together. And this is going to be bridge pose. So bridge in a chair looks like this. It's just a little bit of a chest opener. I've scooted forward to the front of my chair. I'm reaching my hands back. If you have handles on your chair like these bars, it's nice to grab onto. You could hold on to the seat maybe, or just rest your fingertips. And then we're lifting the chest up. So we're looking for a little back bend again. And if you're able to anchor your fingertips onto the chair, you do that. Now, remember, we don't want any pain. As you're holding that, I'm going to show you the floor version, just in case you're lying down. If you were to do this on the floor, you would be lying flat, and then you're lifting your hips up to the sky. So it's a little bit different, of course. Wherever you are, just take 2 or 3 more breaths. If you just started doing it, that's okay. Stay a little longer. We're not in any rush. And then let yourself come back to your starting position. We've done a lot of different movements today, moved the body in a lot of different ways. So now, as we start to settle into the end of our practice together, I want to invite you just one more time to see if you can notice how your body's feeling. See if you can feel your breath moving through your body. See if there's any sensation that you're aware of in your body. Now, for the last part of our practice, we take just a few moments to allow our bodies to rest. If you'd like to keep your eyes open, you're welcome to. If you prefer to close them, that's fine. At this part of the practice, I want to ask you to make yourself as comfortable as you can, whatever that means for you. So if you need to turn off your camera in order to feel more private, you can do that. I'm leaning back into my chair now so I can really feel the support at the back of the chair. And if you're seated, you might just lie down on the floor here and let yourself feel comfortable that way. You could also lean against a wall. Now we're just going to spend a couple of moments here scanning through the body and inviting each part of the body to start to let go of any tension that it's hanging on to, just like an invitation. So we'll begin with the feet. Bring your awareness to your feet. If you need to wiggle them a little bit to feel the feet, you can do that. And then see if you can, with your mind, give your feet permission to relax. Let your awareness move up to your shins and your calves and your knees. Notice if there might be some tightness or tension there. Maybe as you exhale, see if you can invite that tension to begin to dissolve a little bit, just maybe letting it go with the exhale. As you bring your awareness up the body a little bit further into the thighs, this heavy part of our body, let's also include the backs of the hips. If you've got your hands resting on your legs like I do, you may feel heaviness, that solidness, that denseness in that part of the body. With your next exhale, see if you can allow any tension to start to let go there. Now the awareness comes to the belly, the chest, the upper back. Let's include too the shoulders and the arms and the hands. And as you breathe out, see if you can feel or imagine that the tension from your upper body begins to dissolve or drain away. You might imagine it floating away from the body or draining down into the earth. And then finally, your awareness here comes to your face, your head, your neck, maybe your jaw. And we start just by noticing, is there any tension there in that part of my body? And how would it be to invite it to start to fall away a little bit? Sometimes we might invite the tension to dissolve or drain away, or we might ask a part of our body to soften, and it feels like there's nothing happening. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with you if that happens for you. Sometimes we have tension there for a reason, and we need that to hold us together for a little while longer. So it's okay if that happens. This is just an invitation. Now, as we stay here together for just another few breaths, whether your eyes are open or closed, see how it would feel to be a little bit curious about your experience here. What does it feel like to be in your body right now? If it's helpful to move the body a little bit, to wiggle the toes, to kind of feel the body, you can do that. Or you may feel just really relaxed and like you want to be quiet. That's okay too. We'll stay here just for another 2 or 3 breaths. And then when you feel ready, if your eyes are closed, you might open your eyes. And if there's any movement your body needs, you can play with that a little wiggle or a twist, or the head moves. And then to close our time together, I want to just invite you, you don't have to do this, but if you want to, it might feel good to place one hand on your heart. And then maybe you reach the other hand out in front of you as though we were reaching toward one another. So we can't really see each other in the same way or feel each other in the same way, but we can still make this good connection. And I can sense your energy coming to me. And I know that we all just did this good work for ourselves to make ourselves feel better in our bodies and our hearts and our minds. Let's take one breath in together here. And then letting go. If you lifted your hand, you can let that fall.